The spreadsheet trembled in my hands as my brother's words pierced the living room air. From now on, you'll transfer your entire salary to Mom's account. You don't get to keep a single penny. His voice carried the confidence of someone who believed they owned me. Behind him, Mom's lips curved into a satisfied smirk, her arms folded across her chest like royalty observing a peasant's submission. My throat constricted, making it impossible to swallow. The familiar family photos on the wall, ones I'd paid to have framed, seemed to watch me with mocking eyes. I gripped the edge of the dining table, my knuckles whitening as the wood bit into my palms. And if you ever want money for food, my brother continued, his voice rising with authority that was never his to claim, you'll have to kneel and beg us. My name is Phoebe, I'm 31 and a digital security specialist. This is the story of how I transformed financial abuse into a foundation that saved hundreds of women just like me. The family contribution plan spreadsheet they'd thrust at me detailed how every cent of my salary would funnel directly to their accounts. The audacity made my chest tighten with each breath. They'd arrived unannounced at my apartment that morning, coffee still brewing in the kitchen, the scent of normalcy that would soon evaporate. You earn more than us, Phoebe, Mom said, her voice honeyed with false concern. It's only fair we manage your finances. You're terrible with responsibility. The irony burned like acid. For years, I'd been their emergency fund, the one who paid off their credit card debt when collection calls started, who kept their electricity from being shut off during winter, who covered my brother Quinn's rent when he lost yet another job. Now they wanted to formalize their parasitic relationship with a spreadsheet and a demand. Give me your banking app, Quinn ordered, hand extended, palm up, fingers wiggling impatiently. Right now. I studied his face, the same face that had cried grateful tears when I bailed him out of debt last Christmas. The same face that now showed nothing but cold entitlement. No. The single syllable hung in the air like suspended glass. Even the ceiling fan above us seemed to pause its rotation. Mom's practiced smile vanished. Don't test us. You know we raised you. We deserve some return. I rose slowly from my chair, a calm settling over me that felt almost supernatural. The decision crystallizing in my mind with perfect clarity. You're right, I said softly. People should get what they deserve. They exchanged triumphant glances, victory flashing between them like a silent high five. If only they understood what I actually meant, that while they plotted to drain me dry, I'd already set mechanisms in motion that would make them the ones begging. When the first bank alert hit their phones later that night, Mom's smirk would finally disappear. And it would be worth everything. That evening, I sat at my ergonomic desk chair, the one my family had mocked as an unnecessary expense, and methodically scrolled through my transaction history. Every transfer, every bill payment, every temporary loan, they'd extracted through guilt and obligation. The numbers formed a digital monument to manipulation. $47,000 vanished into their accounts over just 2 years. My phone vibrated with Mom's latest text, "You'll thank us later, sweetheart. We're teaching you discipline." Discipline. The word twisted my stomach into knots. They had no idea who I really was professionally. At work, I wasn't just an assistant as they assumed. I was the lead systems analyst for my company's digital security division, the architect who could trace, encrypt, and lock down any financial footprint, including theirs. I logged into the secure portal I'd designed myself, my fingers flying across the keyboard with practiced precision. By midnight, I'd rerouted my salary into a new trust account under my foundation's name, one only I could access. Then I systematically froze all secondary authorizations I'd foolishly granted them years ago out of misplaced trust. The final touch wasn't vengeance, it was protection. I drafted an automatic alert through the bank's fraud department. Any attempt to withdraw funds from my old joint account would trigger an immediate investigation. The system I'd created to protect others would now protect me. At 6:32 a.m., chaos erupted on my phone. Mom first, Phoebe, something's wrong with the bank. None of the cards work. Then Quinn, did you mess with the accounts? Fix it now. I savored my coffee, the steam warming my face as I hummed softly to myself. By the time they pounded on my door, I stood ready for work, dressed in my charcoal blazer and silk blouse, composed and utterly untouchable. When I opened the door, Mom's voice cracked with indignation. What did you do? I smiled, feeling the power shift between us like a physical current. You told me to give everything to the family. I did. I just made sure the definition of family was updated. They pushed past me into my living room, claiming space as they always had. Quinn hurled his phone onto my couch, screen displaying the banking app with its bright red warning banner, "Account under fraud review." "What the hell did you do, Phoebe?" he demanded, veins pulsing in his neck. I took another sip of coffee, the warmth spreading through my chest. "Protected myself." Mom's eyes widened with disbelief. "You froze our accounts? How dare you? That money kept this family afloat." I tilted my head, studying her as though seeing her clearly for the first time. "You mean my money?" She flinched but doubled down. "We're your parents. You owe us." That word, "owe," finally shattered something fundamental inside me. Years of quiet compliance, endless sacrifice, invisible gratitude, all of it condensed into a single, clarifying breath. "You owe me," I said, my voice dropping to a dangerous quiet. "For every loan I never called back. For every night I paid bills you pretended didn't exist. For pretending love was a transaction." Quinn laughed coldly. "You think this makes you powerful? You've just started a war you can't win." "Maybe," I said, reaching for my phone. "But I've already won the part that matters." On cue, his phone chimed with an alert. His face drained of color as he read the message, "Fraudulent activity confirmed. Federal hold initiated. Please contact your branch immediately." I'd filed the report using my professional credentials as a verified systems analyst. The hold was legally binding and airtight. "You can't do this," Mom shouted, her voice now trembling. "I already did," I replied, calm as still water. They stormed out moments later, the door slamming so violently that the picture frame on my wall rattled. I didn't chase after them. Instead, I stood in the empty space they left behind and whispered to myself, "Boundaries aren't cruelty. They're survival." This time, I was done being their safety net. 2 days passed in blessed silence. Then, right on schedule, the guilt campaign began. Mom's text arrived first. "We didn't mean to upset you, Phoebe. Family just needs to share. You're being dramatic." Quinn called next, his voice artificially controlled. "I can fix this if you just send me your login again. You've made things worse for everyone." I muted them both without hesitation. By Friday, they'd recruited Aunt Sarah for damage control. "Sweetheart, your mom's worried sick. She says you're overreacting." Overreacting, their weapon of choice whenever I refused manipulation. The familiar accusation no longer had power over me. That evening, I stopped by my office after hours. The security cameras captured my reflection in the glass doors, shoulders back, head high, no longer diminished. My colleague Rachel peered over her cubicle. "Hey, you look like someone who just got promoted," she observed. I smiled faintly. Maybe I promoted myself. In truth, my department head had just approved my proposal to lead a new initiative, financial fraud protection for women affected by family exploitation. The irony wasn't lost on me. At 9 p.m., my phone buzzed with a voice message from Mom, "You've ruined everything. The mortgage, the bills, Quinn's tuition. All frozen because of you. Do you feel powerful now?" I played it twice, not from guilt, but for clarity. They had built their comfort on my silence. I wasn't silent anymore. With methodical purpose, I opened my laptop, logged into my foundation account, and transferred the first donation, $10,000 to a support fund for women escaping financial abuse. When the confirmation email arrived, I leaned back in my chair, a serene smile spreading across my face. They wanted control. I built legacy. They wanted my obedience. I gave them consequences. And this was just the beginning. Within a week, my story had spread through our extended family like wildfire. But this time, I controlled the narrative. Aunt Sarah called again, her tone noticeably softer. "Phoebe, sweetheart, your mother's just under stress. You know how families are. Do you mean families that drain their children dry, or the ones that call it love?" I asked with measured calm. She had no answer. At work, my initiative made the company newsletter's front page. Employee initiative helps dozens reclaim financial freedom. The same system that had caught my family's manipulation was now protecting hundreds of women. My director paused at my desk, smiling approvingly. "You've turned personal pain into public progress, Phoebe. That's leadership." I thanked him, but my attention was elsewhere. A court notice had arrived that morning. Mom had filed a complaint claiming elder neglect. My lawyer, who had set up automatic monitoring of legal filings using my name, had forwarded it immediately with a note of reassurance. My jaw tightened until I read the judge's ruling, dismissed within 24 hours. The evidence was irrefutable. Financial records showed years of my support, down to the last utility bill. That evening, Quinn sent one final text: "We lost everything because of you." I stared at the screen, then typed back, "No. You lost access, not everything. There's a difference." I switched off my phone and stepped onto my apartment balcony. Below, the city pulsed with light and life, unbothered, vibrant, mine. That night, I wrote myself a note: "Stop trying to save people who enjoy drowning." I folded it carefully and taped it inside my closet door, a daily reminder that peace often costs less than forgiveness. For the first time in my life, I didn't feel guilty for choosing myself. The silence that followed was the sweetest sound I'd ever heard. Weeks passed without communication, no guilt trips, no manipulative apologies, just quiet. The space allowed me to breathe and build. The nonprofit division of my project launched officially that month. We named it Balance Forward, dedicated to helping women protect their finances from family exploitation. My inbox filled with stories mirroring my own. Teachers, nurses, designers, all drained by relatives who disguised control as love. At our launch event, a reporter asked what inspired the initiative. I smiled. Someone once told me I wasn't responsible enough to handle my own money. I decided to prove them right by handling everyone else's better. The audience laughed softly, but behind that laughter was solidarity. That evening, I found an envelope slipped under my door. No return address. Inside was a single folded paper, a faded family photo from a picnic years ago. On the back, in Mom's distinctive handwriting, "We just wanted to feel secure. Maybe we went too far." For a moment, the air felt heavy with grief rather than anger. I sat quietly, then deliberately tore the photo in half. Not from rage, but release. Some relationships don't need closure, they just need to stop occupying space in your life. I burned the paper in a small dish on my balcony, watching the ashes spiral into the night sky. As the last ember faded, I whispered a genuine goodbye. The next morning, I transferred another donation from my foundation, this time in Mom's name. It wasn't forgiveness. It was peace on my terms. Months later, I was invited to speak at a financial empowerment conference in San Francisco. The theme, Reclaiming Control. The irony wasn't lost on me. Standing backstage, I took a centering breath, adjusting the microphone clipped to my blazer. I could almost hear Mom's voice from years past: "Phoebe, you're too emotional to handle business." I smiled at the memory. She had unknowingly trained me for exactly this moment. When I stepped on stage, the applause hit me like sunlight. I shared my story not as a victim, but as proof that you can rebuild even after your own family burns the bridge. The room fell silent when I stated, "Control disguised as love is still control." Afterward, a young woman approached me, tears glistening in her eyes. I thought I was the only one. "You're not," I assured her. "And you never were." Her name was Miranda, a single mother whose parents had stolen her savings under the guise of helping her budget. I helped her file paperwork to secure her assets that same week. The realization struck me then: my pain had transformed into purpose. That evening in my hotel room, overlooking the glittering skyline, my phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number: "We saw you on the news. We are proud of you." No signature, but none was needed. For the first time, I felt neither anger nor satisfaction, just understanding. Sometimes people change too late. Sometimes they change just enough to let you move on. Either way, I had finally found peace. A year later, I stood inside the new Balance Forward headquarters, an airy office with glass walls that welcomed light and possibility. The walls displayed framed letters from women who had rebuilt their lives, each one testifying to what happens when control ends and freedom begins. Miranda now worked alongside me as program coordinator. "We just got approved for expansion," she announced, grinning broadly. "Seattle, Chicago, maybe even DC." I smiled, reviewing the proposal. "We'll reach more people than we ever thought possible." "Your story started it all," she said softly. I looked up at her. "No. Our stories did." That night, after the team left, I lingered in the quiet office. City lights shimmered through the glass, reflecting back a woman I barely recognized, not the frightened person from a year ago, but someone grounded, steady, whole. My phone alerted me to an automatic transfer, $15,000 donation sent to the Women's Education Fund. I'd made it my practice, each time I remembered pain, I transformed it into purpose. With a steaming cup of tea, I stepped onto the balcony, letting the cool night air caress my face. In the distance, a familiar figure crossed the street. "Mum." She glanced up, saw me, hesitated. Then she offered a small, uncertain smile before continuing on her way. I wasn't surprised to see her there. Our foundation's address and grand opening had been featured prominently in a national magazine profile just last week, which had likely drawn her curiosity. I didn't wave. I didn't need to. Some goodbyes are better left unspoken. Turning back to the glowing sign on our wall, balance forward, protect. Heal. Rebuild. I finally understood what family truly meant. It wasn't about blood or obligation. It was about who stood beside you when you stopped begging to be seen. And at last I had found mine.